Hey, I was on the question only minutes they were doing another NFL page. They were actually doing an NFL defense. I mean, tier list. Now if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of running out of ideas. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, but it's whatever. So you got the best. This is like obviously this is like the best defenses in the league. If you've got to have a top-notch offense if you want to score a lot of points on them. Good is like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. They're getting. I mean, they're getting like 3 and outs consistently. They're a pretty good defense. I mean, yeah, round of applause. Average is just like it's your average defense. They're not bad, but also I mean it's not. They're not really good. Bad is like it's pretty easy to score on them. You'd have to be pretty. Yeah, they do get some stops, but they're also pretty bad. Terrible is just like, oh, you can't get worse than this. It's like every single drive of their opponents is a touchdown. They really need to rely on their offense, and they really need to rely on their offense to be good and the other team's offense to be absolutely horrendous if they're going to get anywhere. And now we're going to go ahead and start. We're just going to go across here, starting on the left and going all the way to the right. All right, so here we are starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me just say their offensive line, not offensive line, their defensive line is spectacular. With Joe Schobert, Miles Jack, it is pretty freaking good. And I mean, you look at their whole front seven is pretty good also. And I mean, and also if you look, their their secondary it could use a bit of work. I mean, they got Trey Herndon on there, so I'm gonna give the Jaguars I'm gonna give them a good offense because that secondary again it could use some work. But I don't I'm just gonna put them in good category. All right, so first defender. I've got my notes over here, so it might take me a bit to do each one because I'm just double checking, making sure that I didn't forget to say anything. All right, the Giants. I mean, their defense is really, I mean, it's not their strong suit right now. I mean, their linebackers. I guess they've got Blake Martinez. He's by far the best player on that defense. And I mean, even when you look at like their secondary, they do have the Andre Baker and Jabril Peppers. So I'm gonna say it's not bad, but it's also not good. You know what that means, kids? That means that it is average. Okay, quickly. Since my computer decided to lag, I'm gonna do something real. I'm sorry about this, but it has to be done. I have a video running over here, and I'm pretty sure that's what went down my whole computer. Don't know why I need to tell you that, but I did, and you're welcome. All right, so the next team we're doing are the Titans, and they have a very, very good. I mean, their defense is pretty on point. I mean, they even got Malcolm Butler on there. Who you all know what he did a couple years back. Um, well, that was a couple years back, like 5. But I mean, their defense is still. I mean, it's pretty good. I guess I'm gonna put it in a good category too. I mean, both. All right. So then here we go with the Texans, and the Texans, again, their defense is pretty good. I mean, the Whitney Merciless is pretty good. Jalen Watkins, Justin Reed. I'm gonna have to put him again in good category. I don't think it's absolutely spectacular, but I also don't think that it is terrible. All right, now moving on to the Dallas Cowboys defense. That defense is it's pretty I mean their defense it definitely again it is a defense that isn't very good. It might even be towards the bad category. I know that they've got some pretty. I mean they do have solid. They do have solid. I mean you look at Leighton Vander Esch. I mean Jalen Smith. So I guess I'm gonna put it in average too. We just have the AFC South and the NFC East so far. All right, and then we bring in the Bengals, who their defense needs a lot of work. I'm gonna put that in the pretty bad category. And again, it's not terrible, but it's also not very good. The Chiefs' defense is elite. It's one of the big reasons why they are one of the best teams in the league. It's because their defense is pretty good. The Eagles, though, their defense, I mean, you look at that secondary. There's not a secondary. What is this? You look at their linebackers. They really don't have a front seven. Really, their run defense is practically nothing. So I'm going to have to put the Eagles in the category. Again, I don't know why my computer is so slow, but it is. All right, now moving on to the Rams. Their defense is very, it's their offense is going to be taking a step up this year, but their defense is not going to hurt. I'm going to put this in good. When you see Aaron Donald on a defense, you instantly know that it's good. Man, my defense. I hope this video isn't I hope my audio isn't lagging or whatever. Oh, and the Patriots. I know everyone's talking about how bad they are right now, but I'm gonna put them in. It's some of the best. I don't look at this. Who cropped this image? Anyway, so the Patriots. Stephon Gilmore. Is the best quarterback in the league. They have an absolutely spectacular defense right now. All right, and then the Lions. I'm sorry if I'm not going over their defense as much as I did the first few. It was just taking me way too long. So the Lions, their defense is actually, people are. Of course they're not a really good. They're not a very good team, and their defense. They added Jeff Okudah, but they lost Darius Slay. And it's just not. I don't like it right now, and I feel like they're just an average defense with a below average offense. Well, they do have Matthew Stafford. All right, then we have the Cardinals. And their defense doesn't really have to do very much this season because they have such a spectacular offense right now. But I'm just going to put it around average. They don't have really anything special on that offense. I guess I do have like Jordan Hicks on there. He's pretty good. Isaiah Simmons, who they drafted. So their defense will be I'm going to move it up to good. I feel like, it's a pretty good defense. And then we have the Washington football team down here. And their offense, I'm going to also put it in good because, they do have Chase Young, Fabian Moreau, and they're even Matt Ioannidis, those kind of people. Their defense is pretty good. We're not seeing any terrible defenses yet, but I'm looking down here and I'm seeing some terrible defenses that I already know I'm going to put them. The Bills have one of the best defenses in the league. Of course, they're going to be in best. The Colts, they also have a very good defense, so I'm going to put them in good. Their defense is pretty solid. Yeah, I know I wouldn't say it's one of the best, but again, it's going to definitely help Phillip Rivers to have that kind of support. And then the Saints, I would say that they're kind of like in a line. I'd say they're right here. They have a solid defense, and it's pretty good. But also, you could say it's pretty. I'm just gonna put it in best. Their defense is very, very good right now. Mario Davis, on that defensive line. This video isn't any good, is it? And also, you got Janoris Jenkins, Malcolm Jenkins on that secondary. Yeah, it's definitely a best. Same thing. Look, you look at the Seahawks. Their defense isn't what it was a few years back, but especially with the addition of Jamal Adams, they have a very good secondary, and they have a very good rest of their team. It'll be pretty hard to play against them. And then we have the Bears, who their defense is just average. They've got Khalil Mack on there, but really, you need to have more than just Khalil Mack to, I don't know. Their defense is pretty average. It could be bad, but they do have solid players like Khalil Mack on that team that put them in average. And then we have the Broncos, another average team. Another team that defense used to be one of the best. If you look like 5 years back, even like 4 or 3 years back, it would have been in best, good, no question. But right now, I think it's just average, kind of taking a little break. The Raiders, their defense isn't anything special. It might even actually be a bit bad, but I'm just going to put them in average. They're just one of the average defenses in the league. All right, and the Chargers, their secondary is pretty lacking. When Chris Harris is your best, when Casey Hayward and Chris, I don't know. Their secondary isn't really good, and I think that's kind of going to push them into the bad category. But they could be average. But no, I'm actually just going to put them in the bad category. They might be the best team that's going to be in the bad category, but they are still in the bad category, along with the Dolphins, who, I don't know, are they terrible? No, they were terrible last year, but they're getting better, and they're going to be in the bad category. the Packers, they're going to be leaning on their defense heavy. Because they don't really have any weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Of course, they haven't in the past few years. And their defense is going to be there to pick up the slack. Their defense is very, very good, in my opinion. They have Adrian Amos, Kevin King. Their secondary is absolutely spectacular. They've got Preston Smith. Jadarius Smith. Sorry, this video is not very good. And then 49ers also are good. Sorry, I know they do have. In my opinion, the only reason that they're not one of the best because their front seven isn't good enough to be in the best. But they do have Richard Sherman. Their secondary might be one of the best in the league right now, and that's going to push them up into the good spot. And the Buccaneers are also going to be in the good spot. We're seeing a lot of good defenses. Starting to wonder maybe if I should put them in average. But no, they have a pretty good defense, and that's, again, going to help out this kind of thrown together offense with, Tom Brady and, Rob Gronkowski. They have one of the best offenses in the league, and now they have a pretty good defense. So that's definitely going to help. And the Vikings, their defense isn't anything special. You look at their offense. They have an amazing offense right now, and that's why they're making these playoffs. But if their defense just steps it up a bit this year, maybe they will go farther into the playoffs. No question here with the Ravens. They definitely have one of the best defenses. You see them. They're going to dominate this year. And then the Ravens, I'm wondering if they should be bad or terrible. This is the question of the ages. And you know what? I think it's just pretty. Their defense is pretty terrible. Their secondary, their best player on their secondary is Isaiah Oliver, DeMonte Casey maybe, but still, it's not very good. Panthers, again, I think that their defense, I don't know. It could be bad. Their defense is definitely better than the Ravens. There's no way their defense, but the Falcons. But I still think they're pretty bad here. And then the Steelers, they have a good defense. Okay, I'm a little mean to them when I do my predictions, mainly because I don't think their quarterbacks are any good. And Big Ben isn't really that good, but their defense is good enough to where I think they'll be able to win some games. And then the Jets, they have. I'm just gonna put it in bad. They have a bad defense. Once Jamal Adams left, it went from average to bad. I know they got McDougald, who is he's a solid second. He's a solid cornerback. He's probably gonna get some picks for them, but again, he's not good enough to replace Jamal Adams, and that bumps him down from average to bad on the defensive scale. And then we're just gonna end it off with the Browns is just going to be in good. I don't know where to put them. They're just going to be average. They're either good or average. I'm just going to put them in average.